Hello, this is Pastor Randy here, and sitting with me is Andy Hoover, and we're going to talk about a long process of restarting church. You know, Andy, I can remember some projects that I've got into, for example, education back in the seminary days. When you first start out, you take classes, and it just keeps going, and you keep going, and you think, man, will it ever end? But then there is that sweet day when you get the last class, and you get the diploma, and life can move on.
That was just a few years ago, right?
4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So can you relate to that? I mean, the long journey?
Well, you know, they say Rome wasn't built in a day.
Really?
But I don't know. That's what they say.
Really?
The only thing I can think of would be finding a senior pastor has been taking a little bit longer than I originally anticipated.
You're kidding.
No. I thought maybe we'd spend about 6 months and then we'd have our guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it worked out?
I think so. It's pretty close.
Yeah?
But I'll be honest, you know, the Pastoral Search Committee, we've been meeting for at least 125 times now, and we really enjoy that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So you're just going to keep meeting?
I think so.
Really?
You know, I've talked to Brian, and I think, you know, we'll just keep on meeting.
So it's kind of like a small group or growth group that just wants to keep on?
Yeah, it's been a really good mix of people. We really enjoyed meeting together.
So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, here's a verse from Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes that I think will help all of us as we focus our attention upon restarting our services. He says, "Better is the end of a thing than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit." You know, 8 Sundays in a row, I've had to preach with hardly anybody out here, just a handful of people. And we didn't know how long that was going to go, but we find ourselves now with the opportunity to have people come back, but it is going to be just a little bit different. Anything from that, because you were here some of those times,
yeah, I was.
Things that were interesting to you about that?
Well, I'm definitely excited about meeting back together. I think that's going to be just wonderful to see everybody's faces again. You know, my family specifically has missed everybody.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I have my son, Eric, or my daughter, Elena, come and help with the slides or doing something, but it's just not quite the same.
Right. You know, you never know. With real people in the congregation, I might preach a good sermon.
Well,
but we'll see.
Can hope.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, well, just down from that verse is this: "Do not say, 'Why were the former days better than these?'" And I thought about that. You know, it's not going to be the same because we're going to have 2 services. We won't see everybody. We're live streaming. We got cameras. We got to do a lot of things different, and who knows, there might be things that'll be different for a good little while. So we just got to stay focused on the end goal, and so we want to talk about that. And you know, one of the good things out of this virus, this pandemic, it has kind of forced the hand of Grace Chapel to get the technology that we need to do live streaming and to tape and record, so people that are shut-ins or away on a trip that they can watch, or even thinking about people checking out our church. I think you could relate to that. If you were on vacation, you'd rather remotely check a church out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was definitely talking to Lance about how all this came together here recently, and just just really saw the hand of God in it.
Absolutely.
It's been really a blessing to be able to work with Lance and work with all the different pieces and putting those all together, and it's been a team effort for sure for everybody.
Absolutely. And you know, while we're on that, a word of appreciation to the elders for allowing the purchase of these pieces of equipment to move forward. First thing I'd like to do, Andy, is to talk about some of the things that are going to be common to both services. Now, the first service is at 9. The second service is at 11 o'clock, and we'll have a little bit of gap in between. The first service live stream, the other one will not be live streamed. So let me just talk about things that will be true of both services. We want everybody to enter and exit the same doors. And the reason for that is so that the ushers can open the doors and limit the amount of touches on the door handles. So everybody is to come through the west doors by the office area. And I think you'd like to talk a little bit about how we stay away from each other.
Yeah, my understanding is that, we'll try to pay attention to best practices and
Yes.
keep social distancing going. And then, we may look out and you're going to see some people that are taking the guidance for wearing masks, others may not. But just be conscious of everyone, and we want to make sure everybody is just willing to be here together and be excited to be together, but following those practices.
Now, I just got a text in from Frank Vitt, and he's asking, can we have holy kisses?
I'm going to leave that up to the people, and I will probably look the other way.
Yeah. Well, probably not the best idea.
I probably would
Probably
be
not, yeah.
not according to the guidance, no.
Well, one sad thing in all this, and it's because we care and want to protect our kids, is there won't be a nursery and there will be no Sunday school. So we're going to ask families to sit together and to watch their kids and keep them with them all the time. And that's because we love the kids.
Now, do you
want to
think that
protect
that's
them.
a thing that you're going to be able to overcome as a preacher? When my sons and daughters are going to maybe make some noise.
Well, I don't know if there's much difference in the noise than Jim Spain going to sleep and snoring.
Well, that's a possibility.
Not a whole lot of difference. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good.
Okay. Now, one thing, and I'll let you kind of take this
Sure.
one. We've kind of shortened the service up, made it simple,
Yeah.
and we're continuing that. What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think we're obviously going to try and keep the service about the same as it's been the last 8 weeks. We're going to make sure that, you have that same flow to it, and that keeps us to about an hour.
Yeah, okay. And am I correct that Lance bought a shock collar, and when I'm to stop preaching, he's going to buzz me?
I can neither confirm nor deny that accusation.
I'm a little nervous about that, but
Okay.
We'll see. Now, one thing on a very serious note, anybody who is compromised in health, sick that morning, has a fever, maybe going through cancer treatments, maybe has respiratory issues, please feel comfortable staying home because you can watch the service from home. And we say that not because we don't want to see you, we want to protect all the people there. So when a person comes through those doors, we're all used to having an usher hand a bulletin. How will that be when we return?
So my understanding is we have a couple of tables out there, and we're going to have the bulletins on the table. Each individual person on their own will go ahead and pick up that bulletin and bring it in with them as they come in.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we're doing is having people sit every other row. And you're going to be able to see a red card that says, "No sitting this row." And we want you to respect that. And the first rows on each side and in the middle are for the people that are on the platform. And then you'll see those signs, and that'll keep the distance from others. Now, families can sit together, spouses can sit together, no problems there. But if you're by yourself, sit 6 feet away from everybody else, and we really would appreciate that. What about offering? I mean, I'm used to having the ushers move them around.
Well, I don't think we're going to do it quite like that.
No?
No, I think what I've seen is we're going to go ahead and have a couple of boxes at the back.
Yeah.
And just as you come in those doors, you're going to have an opportunity to place your offering in there for the Lord.
Good. That'll be great. Now, we already kind of talked about the equipment. And when you come, it's going to look a lot different in the room. You're going to see equipment sitting in front of the sound booth. And we would like to ask you to respect that area and especially keep the kids out of that area. And when you look towards the back of the room, you're going to see some TVs on the wall. And that is to help the people on the platform to be able to see where we're at positionally. So it'll also afford us to show announcements before and after the services. We also have new cameras, and we'd like to show you those cameras. There's one that's on the beam, and that'll give a side angle. And then there's also a camera back on the back wall as well.
Yep.
Now, tell me a little bit about, I hear that we're wanting to limit people moving in and out of the room. Is there some issue why we don't want a lot of commotion going on?
Well, with some of these things on the cameras, we've improved them a lot. We've been able to avoid a lot of the vibration, but sometimes we do have a little bit of the vibration for the cameras that are in the back, especially. So we would like to keep people in their seats as much as possible. But if you do have an emergency, and honestly, my family, it's going to be a challenge. We're going to try and get the 5 kids, and we'll hopefully be able to keep them in the seat. And I won't guarantee quiet, but I can definitely guarantee they'll be in the seat, and then hopefully we can use the restroom before.
Yeah.
If we do know that we may need to exit during the middle of the service, I think we should probably sit toward those doors.
Yes, over on the Grace Hall side.
Yeah, I think that would be
they
best.
could go. And there'll be an usher there to help open the door, and that'll limit
Great.
the noise and so forth. Now, I heard a rumor, and I wondered if you might have an inside track. Up on the wall behind me is an object that looks like a camera. And I heard that Lance had planted it there, and it's called a sleep cam.
Oh.
And if a person starts to nod, instead of the camera being on me preaching or the band, that camera picks up that motion and it gets on. Is there any truth to that?
Man, I wouldn't put it past Lance, I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But I don't know. I try not to get into rumors too much.
So this could turn out to be the most alert crowd that we've ever had.
I think there's a very real possibility there.
Well, just in case, I would, try to come ready. Bring some coffee. Yeah.
That'd be great.
You'll be good to go. Now, let me come back and talk about just the 9 a.m. service. As Andy said, there's any vibration shakes on the camera, so that's why the ushers will open the front doors for you when you come in, and we're asking for there not to be a lot of walking around during that service. So we don't want people to come in late. So if you come in late, the ushers are going to escort you over to the Grace Hall doors, and that way you can sit on that side and it won't be picked up on the camera. So we'd appreciate help in that regard. So what about how should people respond in that first service? You think people will be nervous to be themselves?
I could see where that would be a concern. Yeah, I mean, definitely don't worry about the cameras. You're coming here to worship. You're coming here to worship a God that we all love. And I think that's the main point. And so just ignore everything else that's going on. Everything else is just distractions.
Yep.
Let's do what we're here to do and what we love to do.
I remember something you said the day we had communion, and we were kind of fussing around about how do we come into the picture and stuff. And you made a comment, the focus is on this right here.
Yeah.
And if we could just encourage, come in here, be yourself. If you want to raise your hands, you want to say hallelujah, just be your normal self, because we're here to worship the Lord. When the service is over, we're going to try to get it finished at about 10 o'clock or just a few minutes after to allow time for fellowship afterwards. But somewhere around the 10:25 mark, we'll flash the lights as a signal, because we need people cleared out, because Elena and some other helpers are going to wipe down the back of the pews and kind of sanitize everything for the second service. So if you could be helpful when you see those flashing lights, you can go out in the parking lot and continue your fellowship that way.
I mean, you may be conscripted to help, it sounds like, if you stick around.
That's true. Yep, that's very true. And then just a couple comments about the 11 o'clock service. We're not going to live stream that one. but we would still encourage getting into the practice of, if you can, to stay in the facility and not be up and down, keep the focus upon the Lord. But just an encouragement to go that route. Now, in closing, I want to come back to something, and Andy, you were in the Interim Coalition, and I don't want to put you on the spot, so I'll just give you the 2 words, but I emphasize 2 words. Now, this goes way back several years ago, and those 2 key words were others and relevance. And I think that plays into this, because we're thinking about other people when we practice social distancing, sit every other row, respect, some of the guidelines that we're going through.
Sure.
But all this equipment brings some relevance, because the world we live in, people like to check out a church from a distance. So these are good things, and it kind of helps us in that regard. And one day, and we don't know when that'll be, things will be back pretty much to normal. Yeah. Everybody in one service, and things will move on. And as the old saying goes, this too shall pass. Solomon gave an appeal for us to have patience. And that's what we're really going to have to practice. I'd like to close by just reading this verse from Colossians, where Paul talked about as well. He said, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience." And I'm going to try to do the best I can to be more patient. I know you're locked in, and I think we can count on the good people of Grace Chapel to do that, and we're going to get through this season together.
Absolutely.
All right.